Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's guest started competing in 2015. She did 10 shows before becoming the overall bikini champion and winning her pro card at NPC Universe in 2017, which was her third national show. She's a certified personal trainer and certified holistic nutritionist working with Bombshell Fitness as their team director and as a coach for both physique and for posing. This athlete has a degree in fashion. She works at shows worldwide with ICE, tanning, hair, and makeup, and works as an expeditor with the NPC Northeast crew. We are in prep for the same show, hoping all things go well. So welcome to the podcast, Jessica. Oh boy, Dolias. I messed that up. No, Dolias. How are you doing? I knew I messed that up.
Dolias, yeah, I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Oh, good. Sorry for butchering your name after literally just asking you how to pronounce it. I can't even read the pronunciation.
That's okay. Most people actually say Dolias that I'm so used to answering to Dolias, but we'll blame my husband because it's his name. So
Yes, that's a good idea. You can take it. So to everyone listening, we may have a little bit of a lag in the connection. So forgive us if we speak over each other, if there is a lag, but I think it'll be fine. But before we get into everything, Jessica, I'd love to ask, what is something you do or a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
so I get very much kind of into my zone before I get on stage. Before I'm lined up, I get really honestly super quiet and just kind of like sit in myself and visualize myself on stage. I'm really big on visualization. So I just imagine myself doing my routine, imagine what I'm going to do. So I get into this little quiet kind of bubble. And then when I get lined up, I like to kind of perk myself up and just talk to everybody around me and just like get a laugh going and get conversation going to just kind of really brighten up the mood and just get myself excited to get on stage. So I go from, I guess, kind of one extreme to the other before I step on that stage.
Wow, that's crazy. I can't imagine in that order as well. But you said you're big on visualization. So is that something you do every day as well, or is it just backstage?
No, I guess that's something I really do every single day. I visualize myself being on stage. Even when I'm training, I use
Mhm.
that as fuel and motivation. Kind of always done that, I guess, since I was a kid. It's just picturing myself where I want to be, where I'm trying to go, and just use that as fuel to my fire, basically.
Yes, I love that. And it's such a powerful tool. And it can help to evoke the emotions and the feelings and the experiences in our brain before it happens. And I remember reading this book in high school about it. And because I was a volleyball player, it was talking about, the study that is now pretty notorious, the people who practiced in their mind versus the people who actually practiced on the court. The people who practiced in their mind did even better. And I think that that's such a great example and reference for us as competitors of when you're doing your cardio, when you're in the weight room, think about how you're going to look on stage. And I'm sure that that'll evoke some sort of emotion that makes the lift or the workout that much better.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely makes all the difference. And if I ever get caught in, a rut or anything like that, I always turn back to just visualizing myself where I want to be and just feeling the feelings that I'm going to feel and everything, being in that moment. And it just takes you right back to where you need to focus on. So it really is so powerful. It's amazing how powerful the mind is.
Yes, it's my favorite thing in the world because it's like it's just so fascinating and intricate. And if we know how to use it and we use it and we use it to our advantage, man, it is a game changer. I believe that's what truly makes a champion. That's my personal belief, and I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this show know that and would agree with that. But I think that this also ties heavily into what you studied and what you focus on, which is holistic nutrition. And I think there's a lot of different definitions for holistic nutrition or perceptions of it. So how would you define it, or how do you apply it in the work you do?
So to me, holistic nutrition, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different interpretations of it. Some people think that means, like vegan. Some people think that means cutting out certain food groups. To me, holistic just means eating foods that make you feel better, and incorporating a lot of foods that are so full of nutrients and full of life and make your life better. That's kind of what holistic means to me, and kind of which is where I got my certification from, American Fitness Practitioners and Associates. Kind of what it's all about, really, through all of their textbooks and everything they teach, is just following a diet that just makes you feel whole. It's not about cutting things out of your diet, or anything like that, but it's just about including things that make you feel better, make you feel healthy, and just so that's really more what holistic means to me. It might be a little different than what some other people think, but that's kind of how I've learned to approach nutrition, is just seeing it as kind of a blessing, and things that really help you feel better overall and give you a better life.
This is genuinely hitting me at the core. And both of us have history with disordered eating, and both of us were self-recovered, and self-guided in that recovery. And so I have a feeling that the way you view food now must be very different than when you had an eating disorder. So do you mind sharing the differences in your life with an eating disorder versus now
Yeah,
without?
yeah, of course. I mean, when I was going through that, I guess it was, wow, it was about 10, 9, 10 years ago now. Um, everything was just about, I'm a very regimented person. I've always been very, type A. Some people say I'm, OCD, or whatnot, because I just like my order and I like my organization. And for me, when I was going through that, it wasn't even really about the food necessarily, and more about the control of it. I was big on, with the numbers and macros and getting it really low, and just not really paying attention necessarily to the foods in particular, or what it was doing to my body or anything like that. I was just looking for low numbers, and it would consume your day. I mean, you can sit there when you're going through that and just be sitting there calculating the lowest possible way to get food in, so that it's maybe not obvious to other people, but you can still accomplish what you're trying to do. It's really a crazy way that your mind ends up in that spiral when you get really deep into it. And I mean, I had it pretty bad. I'm 5'4" and I was like under 90 pounds. It was absolutely terrible. And it's really scary. But from there, it's just one day it just kind of snapped for me, that I didn't want to feel like that anymore. It's like one day I all of a sudden actually saw myself in the mirror. And I just saw, it wasn't even actually, I think, my body I think I saw like my eyes, and there was just no life in it anymore. And I just missed having, that life that I had before. And all of a sudden, something snapped. I will say that, when I did meet my husband, it did change a lot of things, because he saw me for who I was, even when I was recovering, going through this, and it just didn't mean anything to him. He accepted me for me. And I realized kind of, I am who I am, and I have a lot to offer to my life. And it just kind of transformed the way I thought about things. And I was I turned my dedication of trying really hard to be regimented on eating low calories to trying really hard to just be healthy. So it kind of just completely turned to the opposite direction. And that's when I started really studying nutrition and learning about it and learning, all of the amazing nutrition is freaking, it's amazing. I love studying nutrition and how much it really affects your body. And how much it impacts, your health, your literally everything about you, what you're made of. And it just changed in a way that I was able to focus on, my health and just understand, what nutrition does for you and how important it is, and that it's okay to enjoy different foods. And, it's not about numbers. It's not about anything like that. And it's just about living wholefully. And I guess that's kind of how I see food now is when I look at foods, I'm not here looking, okay, well, I need lower calorie this, or I need to, do that. I just look at what's going to help me in where I want to go, even with training, I'm like, all right, what foods make me feel good? What foods do I know are going to help me, build the physique I want? What foods do I enjoy? And just the combination of that, it's amazing how, like we said, that powerful the mind is when you can just let it change like that. And I guess that's kind of the difference, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
between when I was going through it then and now. It's just you can't see food as like anything to control you or anything that has to do with anything other than just giving you a life to do what you need to do. And that's just kind of how I approach things now, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. Fortunately, and to some probably unfortunately, makes a lot of sense. I totally understand, and I appreciate you sharing so openly and vulnerably about your experiences and your story, because this is so real for so many people. But what's also so real for so many people is getting through it. And I don't think that that actually is shed light on enough. Yes, bodybuilders will talk about how, bodybuilding saved them from their eating disorder, but the same time, some of those things actually just swap places. And I think the perspective you're bringing here is so fresh and healthy and different, in the sense that you invested the energy in bringing life back into your eyes, essentially. When you looked in the mirror and you saw yourself, and also meeting your husband and him recognizing you for who you are. I mean, all of this just very relatable for me. And again, I appreciate you sharing. So it definitely makes sense. And something I also really want to acknowledge that you said in all of that, that I think is a major takeaway here, is that it was not always about the food. That's one thing. And then the other thing is now living with a outlook on food that is about, what is this food bringing to me, to my life, and to my goals. That's actually something I emphasize with my clients. Now, I don't do physique coaching or aesthetic coaching or anything. I do food relationship and mindset coaching. But with that, in one of my programs, I have girls really dive into their decisions behind foods. And part of that is recognizing the goal value of a food. So not just the nutrition value, which most people end up correlating to macros and calories, when really nutritional value is like, what's the nutrient property? What's this going to bring to our body? But then the goal value, sometimes that changes. Sometimes it's about enjoying a part of life that isn't focused on, the way your body's going to change. And maybe that goal looks different. And I like that you're bringing this whole view on it, where it's not, I need to get the lowest calorie, the lowest fat, the lowest this. Is like, what's actually going to make me feel good in these different areas of life that are important to me. And lastly, something that you said that I think is absolutely key. Lots of girls will think that they're fine despite the eating and the thoughts around eating dictating every aspect of their life. And it was dictating every aspect of your life. So at what point did you feel like you had really come out the other side of it? Was it very instant, or did some of those old thoughts and patterns continue to creep up even as you were shifting your energy and focus?
It was definitely not instant by any means. It took years to really get to a point to where those thoughts don't creep in. And I mean, I'd be lying if I said they don't still try to creep in sometimes nowadays, because that's always, I think, going to be a little part of you when you recover from it, even if it's only a part of you that doesn't actually affect anything you do or anything that you actually take action on. Those thoughts don't actually, completely go away, I don't think, but it's that you learn to rationalize with them and realize that it's not actually what you want, or not actually what you have to do, or not actually what's going to help you get to where you want to be. Of course, now I don't really get much of those thoughts anymore, but it took years, honestly, to really get to that point. I mean, especially the first, I guess I'd say, maybe 3 years or so. It was a constant battle, recovering from that and trying to pull yourself out, especially when you're doing it on your own. I mean, I honestly don't know what it's like to do it with somebody helping you. It might have been easier, but I'm very stubborn. So, it's a constant battle. So that's definitely not something that happens overnight. And anybody that's going through it, like, you have to give yourself some grace and understand that because the mind is so powerful, in order to change how you think about things, it's going to take time. So that I honestly don't know of anybody that's recovered and had an instant switch where they've been able to change their mindset about it. I don't know, with your own personal journey. But for me, it took years. And I mean, those thoughts, they'll still creep back in. It's just about not acting on them and being able to have kind of a rational conversation with yourself and understand that that's not actually, something that's going to help you or something that you even want.
That's beautiful. I tend to agree with you on the thoughts never technically leaving. They come up a lot less frequent. I think you put it really beautifully, which was that you learn to rationalize with them. And I think that that does come from that conscious daily, like hourly, by the minute commitment to change. And I think the more invested we are in the change itself, then usually the more productive that change ends up being. But to that point, that doesn't mean it necessarily disappears. I am a believer that full recovery is possible. I know there's a lot of people in the counseling world, in the psychology world, in the eating disorder world who would argue with me on that. But that's also why I love what I'm doing and love that I'm getting into this, because I do believe full recovery is possible. Does that mean that, the thoughts will never come up? No, it's a lot like what you said. You have to be willing to address them when they do, and be prepared for them to come up and give yourself grace. So I think that that's just really cool that you brought that up. And you said, you encourage other people who are going through that to really commit to that process. So from a coaching perspective, why do you think it's so important for competitors to be mindful of their relationship with food?
Well, competing is so regimented and down to the detail, that's where it can creep back in, getting so regimented with your food, and being so on target. I mean, as a competitor, we have to, we weigh our food and measure it out, make sure we're getting the exact meals we have to get. You can get to a point where, if you're not eating on your meal plan or hitting your macros to the point you feel like you're gonna, throw it all away, and you have to kind of learn to disconnect from that, and just realize the end, that it's not the end all be all if you're not hitting your numbers or anything like that. And competing is, because it is so regimented, that's where there's that fine line with having that, rough relationship with food. But
Mhm.
see, it's hard to kind of pinpoint, exactly what I'm trying to say with that. But that's where you have to kind of be able to disconnect yourself from that regimen, that preciseness, and not let it control your life, and realize that you're choosing to do that and you have control over it, and not let it control you, is kind of what I was trying to get at there.
Totally. No, that made perfect sense. It's like being mindful that competing requires a different level of regimen, more intensive, focused, and maybe to some people extreme. But at the same time, like, you're choosing it. It's something you can also, I personally believe, like with competing, from all my experiences with it thus far, I have had the best experience this past prep, which has been ridiculously crazy, but it's because I've actually allowed myself to embrace the relationship with food and the mindset that I want and the body image that I want, not just in this past prep, but improvement season as well. And I think when competitors become aware of doing what's actually best for them, being what they believe is best for them and what is going to help them long term, and they can communicate that with their coach, then the experience is going to be so much better, as well as any fear of, post show or the post show binge, or these things that we get so worked up over and that have become normalized. It's like, no, that doesn't have to exist, because we have the opportunity to choose what our relationship with food and what our body image and what our commitment to our mindset is going to look like throughout a prep and an improvement season, to make it the best experience for us. And I know this is something that, your experience through your relationship with food really inspired you to immerse yourself in learning about nutrition. And I think education on nutrition can be a great motivator when it comes to making choices for ourselves and empowering ourselves to make those choices. So was there anything that stood out to you when you first, or maybe even now as you continue to learn about nutrition or about fitness, that really reinforced those healthy behaviors and healthier thought patterns for you?
I mean, pretty much just from experience. I mean, through myself, through, my girls who I coach, you just realize how, invigorating it is to, eat well and fuel yourself well, and even with fitness, just looking at it as an overall picture. I mean, when you take control of, your fitness and your nutrition, your life really changes. So, being able to see that as a coach, and even in my own life, you see how important it is. Those habits that you build, it just really, it sets up your entire life. Your nutrition, what you feel yourself with, really, it impacts everything. It impacts, your energy, it impacts your mood, it impacts your decision making. Honestly, it's just,
Mhm.
it's amazing how much of an effect it has on your life. So, and seeing that in both, that in my clients, it really is an amazing thing when you see people turn to that kind of transformation, where they, feel that, freedom of being, fit, free to be fit, free to be healthy, because they understand how much of an impact it has on them, and really, feel amazing because they are following, such a great, nutrition regimen, fitness regimen, and just having an amazing impact on their life.
Yes, yes, it absolutely does have a major impact. And that's not necessarily to say that, like, there's one perfect way or one best way. I think it's just that commitment, like you said, to choosing what's best and also fueling the body with what's going to make you feel good. And I think there's a lot of stigma around competing being unhealthy or disordered. And then, on the other side of that, so many people forget or seem to forget the passion and the love and the fulfillment and the lessons that this lifestyle really brings to so many of us as athletes. So I'm curious, as a coach, like, how you help girls understand if it is mentally the right time for them to commit to competing.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have to honestly already have, a decent relationship with food and everything like that. I don't necessarily think that somebody that's been yo-yo dieting for a long time, is coming out of something that, even an eating disorder or body image issues or anything. I don't personally feel that they might be ready for a bodybuilding competition until they find that freedom and feeling, having a healthier relationship with food and with dieting. So until they really get to that point, I don't really honestly encourage competing. I'm not for pushing people to the stage if they're not mentally ready for it, because it really does require such a strict amount of discipline that can, if you're not ready for it, it can be discouraging if you're constantly trying to reach it and you're not getting there. So I think that not coming off of, something where you're constantly trying to diet down or you've always been trying to lose weight, competing isn't really the answer to that. I think that competing is something that you pursue if are an athlete and you really want to challenge yourself in that sense, and you enjoy training. I think all of that is extremely important when it comes to competing, and not seeing competing as a diet or a way to just reach your goal body. There's many different reasons why you want to compete, but I think that in order to really be successful in it and keep a healthy relationship with everything, you have to actually love of being an athlete and having that discipline, and just wanting to be a competitor, for the reason of wanting to compete and enjoy the whole process.
Oof, I love that. I love that so much. It's like reinforcing the benefit of healthy intention and like going into it the right mindset, not like a bodybuilding will fix me mindset, but rather, or maybe not even bodybuilding will fix me, but bodybuilding will continue to enable me to live, a life of unhealthy thought patterns in relationship with food and body, etc. But more so, bodybuilding is already my lifestyle. I already love this. It brings me so much joy. It brings me fulfillment. Going onto the stage is just, another Saturday. It's just going to be a next level, and it's going to be a great way to push myself. I think that healthy intention is such a great way of doing this. And I actually was really curious about your journey to becoming a coach. And I know you were starting up your own online coaching business while working as, and correct me if I'm wrong, but while working as a computer programmer until you got hired on by Bombshell. So how did this all happen, and why was this such a dream of yours to work with Bombshell?
So I started competing in 2015. I did my own prep and everything. I was just kind of getting my feet wet, seeing if I liked it. But what I, was inspired by to compete was seeing bombshells. Everywhere I looked, there was, Team Bombshell and all of these women that were bombshells on stage. And I was just in awe and really wanted to do what they were doing. I had already started really getting into weight training and earning my, personal training certification, all of that. But I was just so engulfed in, that team and everything I saw from them. They were what inspired me to compete. So, I did my first show. Obviously, I fell in love with it. And then I felt, I guess, kind of worthy in a sense, to apply to the team. And then, so I've been with them since like literally right after my first show. And I've just loved everything that they're about, because it's just such a powerful sisterhood, really. And it takes what's kind of an individual sport and turns it into, a team thing, a group of women all, passionate about something together. It really just changes everything. So I fell in love with Bombshell. And, as soon as I became part of the team, before I started working for Bombshell, I just had this dream that I was like, just how I talked about visualization earlier,
Yes.
like I just visualized myself being a Bombshell coach. Like I remember I would go to sleep at night and pull up, the webpage, see if they were looking for employment opportunities. Like I just saw it, I felt it in my gut that it just felt right and where I would belong. But, of course, that opportunity hadn't really come yet for a little bit. So I did at one point, lost my job because the company closed when I was competing in 2016. But, I was still so passionate about it. I didn't want to give up Bombshell. I didn't want to give up competing. So I ended up opening my own computer programming business, because I am actually also a certified computer programmer.
Wow.
So I opened up my own computer programming business, which I actually still have. So
Wow.
uh, I opened that to really help just pay the bills and start it while I was starting my own personal training business. I would take clients over to this little gym. It was called like the ballpark gym. It was like a part, softball thing for kids and a part gym. I would start taking clients there. I would run boot camps there. I was just trying to do everything I could to start just
Mhm.
getting myself experience, trying to build up my business, trying to, get my feet wet, get myself in there. So I was doing that for a little bit and running my computer programming business. That actually is what I was doing when I turned pro. I
Wow.
was that's what I was doing for a solid over a year, really. That's basically what I was running on. But I just had this dream. I wanted to turn pro, and I had the dream that I wanted to work for Bombshell, and I was going to make it happen. So the pro dream happened, in July 2017. We're at NPC Universe. And then they actually, Bombshell approached me to help them with posing coaching. And I was like, okay, you know what, this is my in, I can start really, getting to know them more. So I started working with them for posing. And then a few months later, they asked me to be a coach, it was incredible. I was sitting there waiting to see if there was a time for me to apply and interview and everything. And they asked me to be a coach for the team. And it was just, it was amazing. It literally was a dream come true for me, because I had, like I said, since 2015, I visualized myself being a coach with them, just because connection with everybody there. It really is a family, and I felt that right away. So that's kind of in a short synopsis of how I got to be a Bombshell coach.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that story so much because it shows that your dedication, your passion, your commitment to the dream really paid off. And there's so many parts of what you said that I want to branch off of and talk about. So I think maybe I'll go the random side first, which is the computer programming business. And then I'll take it back to the dreams coming true with the IFBB Pro Card, your journey through that experience as well. So what is your computer programming business and how does it like work? What do you do? Like, yeah, break that down.
Yeah, I know that's like super random. I'm a certified Crestron programmer. So I actually am a Crestron service provider for my business. Basically, it's, like you see smart homes and like automation. You ever see like touch screens in the wall that'll control, the lights or the TV or the Blu-ray or whatever it is, different things like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Hmm.
I basically program those systems, and design all the graphics for it. So that's basically what I do with the programming business.
Wow. Yeah, that's basically it. That's all. That is amazing. That is so crazy.
Yes.
I don't even know what the hell computer programming is. And yet, obviously I take advantage of these things every day. So that's just amazing.
Yeah, I'm definitely also a nerd, so that's where that comes
I can tell you're
in as
very
well.
dedicated to the things that you learn about. You really immerse yourself into them.
Yes, yeah. If I always put both feet in, that's definitely true.
That is so cool. And before that, you had studied fashion.
Yes, yeah. So I do have a degree from FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology, as well, because I was, well, pretty much just interested in it, and wanted to earn my degree there. So I moved to Manhattan for a couple years, and earned my degree there. So I was, because I actually thought that I was going to be a professional dancer, was always my goal since I
Hmm.
was a kid, to be, a dancer, a dance coach, something like that, performer. And then when I was in high school, I actually went to a performing arts high school. I ended up, injuring myself, and I needed surgery. And it finally gave me a time to see, things that I enjoyed that didn't necessarily have to do with dance. So I kind of decided to take a different route, and I moved to New York City and decided to go for my fashion degree, because I had always loved fashion as well. So that's where that popped in. I earned that degree. Yeah. So a bunch of different things that I've branched out on, and definitely dabbled with, for sure. I still am waiting to figure out what I don't want to do with that fashion degree.
That is awesome. Maybe designing some masks for the state. No, I'm just kidding. But that is
Yeah.
That is really amazing. Like you've really gone into all these different arenas that interest you. I I'm a person of passion too. So like I've never done anything I don't like or have interested in, and I think it's awesome that that's something that you've done too. And um aside from the fashion, the computer programming and now the coaching, you're still doing the computer programming, you're finding out ways to, work in your passion for fashion as well. But you dreamt of earning your IFBB Pro card. You were a dancer before that. So I imagine a lot of these things tie in together. And I'm curious if you feel like the background in dance had any influence or maybe gave you a solid base for success in this sport.
Oh, 1000%. Yeah, it definitely did. The reason I wanted to actually compete and get on stage was because I missed being on stage.
Mm.
I always loved that feeling and that rush of performing, and being in the spotlight on stage. I love that. I live for it. So, when I wasn't exactly dancing anymore, but I had gotten, into weight training and loved that, I was like, well, here's my chance to combine the two of my love for the stage,
Mhm.
my love for the training. And then that's just how I ended up, getting on stage and competing. And obviously, no surprise, I fell in love with it. But because of the dance background, that also 1000% helped me with posing. And that's definitely something that I feel is, I guess, a forte of mine is posing, just because it comes more naturally because of the dance. The flow of posing and everything and hitting those poses is definitely something that I feel helped me with earning my pro card and help me stand out a little bit more. So that definitely all tied together for sure. So I would say it definitely had a big impact on me earning my pro card.
Yeah, your posing is awesome. I was watching your foot videos. I was like, oh my gosh, her posing is so beautiful, very much flowy and very controlled and just awesome. So I can tell. And then, of course, when I learned about your background in dance, I was like, okay, now it makes sense. But I always love to ask this because girls who have a background in dance or girls who do posing coaching, I'm always curious what like the feedback has been from judges, if you've ever gotten feedback on your posing.
Um, Actually, no. It's always just ways to improve my physique to get better. I've been told that my posing actually is great, and that it kind of like the one of the judges that I got feedback from says that when I'm on stage posing, I kind of like light up the room with it, which was probably one of the most amazing
Wow.
compliments I could have gotten. So I guess the only feedback I've gotten posing wise was that, which was amazing. I was really humbled by
Hmm.
that. Otherwise, it's really just been feedback about how I have to improve my physique.
That's awesome. I love that. And what have you been working on with your physique for your upcoming show?
A big thing for me I've had to work on is building up my legs. I've been able to really build up my glutes, way too much, over the years, and it kind of overpowered my legs. I've always had difficulty developing them. I have really long limbs. So it's a little bit harder for me to develop that way. So that's been one of my bigger focuses, is really building up my legs a little bit more, building up in my shoulders. I have a smaller, tiny, petite frame to begin with. So just really creating that, upper body width and building up my legs has really just been my focus pretty much the entire time that I've had to continue working on.
That's amazing. Actually, one of the questions that we've gotten from one girl, we've been asking it on the show a lot, is if you could only pick one exercise for shoulders, glutes, and hamstrings for the rest of your life, only one for each of those, what would you pick?
Oh gosh, that's such a hard question. I want to do them all. Okay. Let's see. For shoulders, I mean, I love the burn of lateral raises. So maybe I'll pick lateral raises for shoulders.
Cool.
Dumbbell lateral raise. Final answer. For hamstrings, I'm gonna have to say sumo deadlifts, and then For glutes, um, oh gosh, that's hard. I'm gonna say it's funny because like I don't do any kind of hip thrusting or anything that puts you into a whole lot of hip extension anymore because my glutes were so overpowering and they
Yeah.
build up so easily. So I don't even get to really do those exercises anymore. Anyway, I do a lot more, lunges and different things like that. So I'll have to go with, let's say, reverse lunges because that's something that I do now. But actually, if I could, I would bring hip thrusts back if I was able to after I'm done competing. Maybe I'll start doing them all the time again.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite. So you've been working on building up your legs, and this has been challenging for you because of your longer limbs. So over the years, I mean, obviously the bikini division has evolved. How have you made changes to your diet and training to not only evolve with the look that's demanded now, but also the look you've been requested to bring?
Really, I've just been working on going a lot heavier. I do a lot of more kind of old school training nowadays. Like I do a lot more squats. I've really worked on improving my squat form. That's made a big difference in helping me build up my legs. I make sure that I eat enough. I've been able to get my food up, a whole lot over, especially this past improvement season, and because of over the years, which has made a big difference. We have to eat to grow. So just bringing my overall volume up has helped me a lot, and doing a lot of just heavy compound lifts like deadlifts, squats, presses, different things like that have really been good for me. But I do a lot more higher weight load, but higher reps has been a good response for my body. So I do, I guess you could say, some like rest pause to get those reps out. But doing higher number of reps by keeping the weights heavy has gotten my body to respond really well with a combination of a lot of power moves like weighted plyos and different things like that. That's what I've kind of found to help me with building in the direction that I really need to go.
Do you think any of that, like the fact that your body's responding to that, has to do with like dance? Because I know dance can be like very explosive in terms of like a plyometric move. Your body would probably be like more apt to respond to than not doing that because of your history in dance.
I do wonder that because I've like been dancing since I was 6 years old. So, I mean, my body's just known that for so long. So, that definitely could be playing a factor for sure as to why my body's responding so well to it. But, I think I need the combination of that explosive work and then just the, really heavy work combined. Really kind of the recipe that works best for me. But that does, make a lot of sense as to why my body might be responding so well to it.
Yeah, I love hearing like how people approach their training or how training varies from person to person, because it just goes to show like we can get to our end result with different approaches, and finding what works best for us is really key. And you were even able to get your food up too in your off season so that you could grow, and that probably allowed you to even get, the numbers up in terms of strength, which is probably benefiting you throughout prep, I imagine. So it's just really cool to hear that. But big part of this sport is patience, and this is something I think a lot of people lack, because maybe they want to win right now, step on stage right now, get the pro card right now, get that national qualification, whatever it might be. But this year, more than any other year, has taught us that the joy really does lie in the journey. And I know you really love this sport. So how have you embraced prep under this whole lockdown situation and things changing?
It's funny because I never would have thought that I would be training or prepping for a show without access to a gym or anything like that. Because I mean, I'm in New Jersey. I haven't been to a gym in 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I never thought that, it would be something that would actually, honestly, this has probably been my best and favorite prep yet, even though the shows keep changing. But honestly, training at home, I've just been able to really focus, tune everything out, really improve my form, really get better at training. My gym is a little bit unorthodox. So I have a bench and I have of dumbbells. I have a squat rack and a barbell with weights, but I didn't have a whole lot of plate weights or anything like that. So my husband, bless his heart, went out and cut down some trees. And I don't know if you follow my Instagram, but I squat with literally tree trunks and different stuff like that. I have cinder blocks that I put in a pulley system that he created in our basement that has a basket for weight, for lat pull downs and everything like that. So my gym is a little bit crazy looking, but I've really honestly enjoyed it a whole lot this prep because my workouts have just been so great, and I have everything that I need. But this prep has definitely taught even me that you can adapt if you're willing enough. And if
Mm.
you have the discipline to do it, and if it means enough to you, and it's something that you really are passionate about, you will figure out some kind of way to make it work. And I guess this has kind of just reinforced my passion for this sport because I've just figured out any way I could do to make it work, to still be able to train, to still be able to prep for a show, even under all these circumstances. So I don't want to, I feel bad saying this is like a blessing in disguise because everything that's going on in the world, but in a way, this kind of helps me. So but I don't take that for granted, and I actually have really enjoyed this crazy, really weird prep that I've been going through now.
That is so cool. I love that. That is amazing too. That your husband would make that stuff for you and that you've been able to utilize it. And man, the fact that you've had one of your favorite preps, if not your favorite prep ever through this, speaks volumes. And I gotta say, I've had the same experience. I'm not lifting tree trunks or anything, but it's definitely been awesome. And I keep that reinforcement, that word reinforce of the passion is very key, I think. And there's been times where personally it's been like really tough where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is this the right move? Should we keep going? Blah, blah, blah. But then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, how do I feel? Where's my head at? What am I committed to? And it's like, feels right. It feels right. So let's keep going. And like you said, if you're willing to make it work, it can work. And I've noticed, cardio has been the hardest part for me because it's like run every day, run, 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 or do like intervals on the hills and outside and stuff. But at the same time, like, man, I've pulled out a whole other athlete out of me. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely get to experience new ways of training too, and realize, just like you said before, there's not one way to do something,
Hmm.
multiple ways that you can approach it and make it work. And this has definitely taught us that, having to prep going through all of this for sure.
Yes. And with that said, it does take longevity to be successful in this sport and to maintain the commitments to, every demand of it. So, how do you feel you've been able, or maybe I should say, how have you been able to maintain your commitment to the sport for the last 5 years without wavering?
Honestly, I guess I love it that much. I mean, it's funny because as a coach, I also see a lot of my athletes will go through periods where, they want to compete, they're all gung ho about it, and then they have no motivation to do it. They don't want to follow anything, they don't want to compete. And, I see it happening, but I just have not felt that disconnect from it. I don't know if it's because I'm such a regimented person and it's just become my life and I'm just used to the habit of it, or if it's just that because I'm so passionate about it, I just, always find a way to dig deep and get myself through it. I mean, I'm human. I have days where I just do not want to work out, or I just do not want to do what I have to do. But I still kind of channel that discipline and still make it happen. And I think that in order to really be successful in the long term and have that longevity, you just kind of have to find that discipline in making yourself do it what you got to do, if it means enough to you. And then the motivation kind of comes afterwards once you get to that point where it just becomes where I'm at, where it just feels like life and habit,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of, the key. But it takes years to get there. Like I also didn't feel like this normal regimen or anything right away either. And that's also something that brings back to what you said about patience, is you have to be patient with yourself as well, because you're just
Mm.
completely trying to change your lifestyle when you get into bodybuilding. And just going back to the mind too, the mind doesn't change overnight. Your habits can't change overnight. It just doesn't work that way. So you have to give yourself some grace, and that there's going to be bumps in the road. But if you're willing to push past those bumps because it means more to you, and you're willing to take that extra push and push yourself to do that workout you don't want to do, and just still make it happen and create those habits, that's how you're going to be able to continue to do it. And when it becomes, just your lifestyle long term.
Yes, I love that. I love how you said it. It just becomes your life. Like I can't even imagine, there's some people you see at the gym or around town, like, oh, I haven't been to the gym lately. I'm like, I literally can't imagine going a day. Okay, a day, maybe that's a little excessive, but I can't imagine just not going and working out one day, that's what I do, or like meal prepping. I'm like, that makes sense to me. I can't imagine not meal prepping now. It just seems odd. I couldn't imagine not having protein on hand, like I don't know. There's just certain
Yeah,
parts of it that you're
definitely.
just like, how do people live not doing this? Because it becomes your life in a positive way. Obviously you can still enjoy all foods and make choices that make you feel good, and like we said, multiple approaches, but to that point, whatever you choose, make sure it's something that eventually you go, how could I have ever lived without this or before this? And knowing that that can constantly evolve and having that grace with yourself. And I love that you re-emphasize that. So I want to go back to talking about your dream of becoming an IFBB pro. You've fulfilled a lot of dreams in your life, and this is one of them. And you went through 10 shows, 3 of which were national shows, to finally achieve that goal. And what was the most memorable part of your experience leading up to that moment? Like all those 10 shows, what was the most memorable part of that?
Oh my gosh, that is such a hard question. Um, I guess, well, that year leading into, well, I guess I can approach this two ways, because when I was competing in 2016, I did honestly win a lot of shows and win quite a few overalls. And I was kind of riding that into my first national show. And then my first national show, I got like 16th place. I didn't place at all. And that kind of made me realize, how much I actually really want to push, and how much I really have to work harder and harder to earn that spot. So then when I went back the following year, I had just, I guess, kind of a new approach and mindset. And that's where I guess I fell more in love with the process of it. And so in 2017, just that whole, I did a couple of shows leading up to it. I did the Mets in New York, and I won the overall there. And then I did Pittsburgh and won the overall there. And just kind of riding that high into NPC Universe was such a good feeling those months. And then just earning that pro card it was just, an incredible feeling. But it really like happened all those months leading into the show. Everything just felt so right. It just kind of felt like my time, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. So you really learned a lot from each experience, and that prepared you for the experience you eventually had, which is earning your pro card. And not just that, but going overall. So what was it like to go from, okay, your first place, I'm guessing, were you bikini class D, you're 5'4"?
Uh, D or C. Yeah.
See, okay, so like they're announcing this, and you're, oh my gosh, it's me, just got my pro card, new pro card, or new IFBB pro. Then go backstage, boom, now you got to compete in the overall. Boom, you win it. Like, what was that like?
I can't even describe the feeling. That was the most overwhelming feeling of just like chills and butterflies and just like I think I cried. I don't know. I think I have too many emotions to actually cry, but it was just like one of the best feelings in the world. If I ever have a bad day, sometimes I'll just imagine that day again and bring that feeling back because it really is so amazing. I have chills right now just thinking about it again. It was one of the best moments of my life, but it's really there was not a whole lot compares to that feeling of finally just achieving that goal, and not just achieving a goal, like surpassing what I had ever dreamed of happening. That's an amazing feeling.
Yes, and how inspiring that only 2 national shows before that you didn't even place, and that lit a fire under you to get after it, and you made it happen.
Yeah, I didn't place the first one. I did worse the second one, actually.
Really?
Came back and ended up winning overall. Yeah. So, anybody out there, don't let it, don't let your placing affect you. Amazing things can happen. Just keep working. If it means that much to you, just keep working. It'll happen. It can happen.
I love that. And you even made a post earlier this year about how, like with bodybuilding, you're always going to have another level or a new goal you want to accomplish. So, what is that next accomplishment for you?
Well, I would love to place at a pro show right now. That would be good to get a placing, earn points. My dream, honestly, is to make it to that Olympia stage. I do want to get there. I don't care how long it takes. I want to make it happen. So that's really what my goal is now, whatever it is, that I have to do to get there in the amount of time it takes. I just really want to end up on that Olympia stage. So that's my next target.
I love it. I love it. And now you talked about your husband earlier, and he really supports you in this. Essentially, he built you a gym, which is awesome. Do you guys, does he normally come to shows with you, by the way?
He has never missed a show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's there. Everyone. He always comes backstage with me. He always gets a backstage pass. He's been to every single show that I've ever competed in, at every single one, and it'll probably always be that way.
Wow, that's amazing that he even gets a backstage pass to spend that time with you.
I mean, he lets me like do my thing, but just to be able to, if he has to run back to give me something or to be there just to make sure like whatever I need I have, he
Mhm.
always just makes sure that he does everything he can. I'm definitely a lucky lady there.
Aw, and do you guys usually use like shows as a reason to travel or enjoy like new places together?
Yes, yes. Especially for going somewhere that's different. Like the last place we went to that I competed was New Orleans. So we stayed an extra day and went around and explored and everything. Used it as a little vacation. We definitely enjoy doing that.
I love that. That is super cool because I think that that's one of the parts about competing, and especially when someone becomes an IFB pro and even international shows now too. But it's like so many opportunities to travel and explore the world and enjoy these different areas when we do compete. So I think it's really awesome that he's able to do that with you. And which, by the way, what does he work as well?
Yes, he's actually a detective in New Jersey here.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Mhm.
That is awesome. And you guys have 2 dogs and 6 chickens, right?
Yes. Yeah, we have two little dachshunds, and then we have six chickens. Yes.
Why what inspired the chickens?
That was all. Well, we live on a farm, and this was, I guess, our start to it.
Yes.
It's funny because we had loosely talked about getting chickens, and then I went to work at a show one weekend, and he sent me a picture of these baby chicks. I was like, oh, those are so cute. Wait a second, that looks like my garage. Because he went and got them when I was away at a show. But they really are great to have, and their eggs are amazing as well. They're cute. They're crazy chickens. But that's kind of his little introduction to the farm we are apparently eventually going to live on.
That is awesome. Would that be in Jersey?
No, probably not. So he wants to move out like west somewhere or Florida or something, or we haven't really gotten that far.
That's awesome. I love that. Both of you are dreamers, which is super cool, and you both make it happen, which is awesome. And you have his support, which is so important and just really cool. And I love to hear those kinds of stories as well. And you just mentioned too that you were out working at a show, and I know you're really heavily involved and you keep yourself involved in the sport even through improvement seasons. How has that impacted your experience as a competitor, as a coach, just overall in the industry?
Oh, it's made it a million times better. I definitely recommend getting involved in any way you can in the industry if it's something that you're really interested in. I'll either work with the tanning company where I'm tanning the athletes, so I get to interact with them backstage and everything, which is always super fun, or I expedite the stage at Northeast shows. So in a lot like the New Jersey shows, especially. So I get to be involved there, but it definitely, just takes it to a next level, being able to be behind the scenes as well as on the stage.
That's super cool. No, I love that you do that. I think that there's so many ways to get involved with the sport. I mean, this podcast is like my way of doing that, but I'm always open to other things. And I thought that was really cool when you shared that in the forum. I was like, oh, that's so smart. And I love that you do that. And I imagine that that probably means a lot to the girls you coach too, especially if they're doing those shows.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yes. So I love to end every episode by asking about your advice. And I really quickly just want to say that everything you shared has been so awesome. I literally have a whole page of notes next to me, and I'm excited to even just make the title for this episode because we've covered so many things, and this conversation has just felt so natural and easy. And I really appreciate you being so open the whole time and honest with your experiences.
Yeah, of course. No, I'm super happy that you had me on and that I've been able to share everything.
Yay, I'm glad. Well, okay, so I gotta ask, what is your best advice for a girl who's never competed before but is thinking about it? And then what is your best advice for someone who is on their road to pro?
So if you've never competed before and you're thinking about it, honestly, I would say look into getting a coach who really is involved in the industry and understands it, because not only are they going to help you prep better, but if they really understand the industry, they know how to prep you better and make sure they prep you the right way, and will help you with really finding out if you enjoy the process or not, if you're really doing it right for the stage that first time, going into your first show. So I would definitely invest in a good coach for anybody that's thinking about competing. But you don't know unless you try at the same time too. So if it's something that's been on your mind and you just want to give it a try, there's also no harm in that either. Like, we don't know if we really enjoy something until we try it. So if it's something that's been running through your mind for a really long time, just go for it. But if you can get a coach to help you get there, that really will help you just enjoy the process better, to make sure that you're doing it right. And then for somebody that's trying to turn pro, it's just keep going. If it means that much to you, do not give up. Like what happened with me with the other shows where I went from last place to overall for nationals. Like, you don't know what can happen. And if it means that much to you, just keep going and just enjoy the process of it. Don't live or die by the win of each show. The more you love the process and engulf yourself with the process and put more into your training and just put more into everything that you're doing to get there, and the more you enjoy that, the more it's going to mean once you finally reach your goal. And quite honestly, I think the more likely you are to reach your
Mm.
goal, because that's going to translate onto the stage. So just keep going and learn to really enjoy the entire process of it. Don't get overly stressed about the placing. Just focus on what you're doing, and the whole process it takes to actually get to that stage, I think, is important to focus on instead.
Powerful advice. Yes, less focus on the outcome and more so on the process, and then the outcome will take care of itself. I absolutely love that. Could not agree more. And I want to make sure everyone can reach out to you, maybe even get in touch with you about coaching or posing, and even just to express gratitude or tag you as they listen. So, can you let everybody know where they can find and connect with you?
Yes, so I am on Instagram. My Instagram is at Jessica Dolias, so JESSICADOLIAS. And then my email is jessicad@bombshellfitness.com. So you can email me or just tag me on Instagram, message me on Instagram. Any way you could find me, honestly, I'd be more than happy to talk to you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming on here again. It meant so much to me. And this conversation was just so beautiful. And I hope that everybody here got a lot from it. And you guys, we would love to hear your major takeaways. So be sure to tag us. I'm going to put all of Jessica's information on the show notes page, which can always be found on celestial.fit/podcast. If you don't know, when you're on mobile, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see all the category sections that has every single athlete's name. And then you can always find hers there in case you're listening to this well into the future. But it's all going to be there along with the episode timestamps. So everything that me and Jessica have talked about, you're going to see a specific breakdown of when it was said and what was said at that time, so that you can always go back to it and revisit those major takeaways. And a major shout out to the girls who work for me, who do that, who are fans of the show. And of course, I pay them, but it's also really amazing. And I'm so grateful for them because they make this podcast even better and have helped me to build it up. So I appreciate all of you listening, sharing, subscribing, reviewing. It means so much to me. It goes a long way. And hopefully by the time you listen to this, me and Jessica will have stepped on stage and killed it after all these months of amazing,
Yeah.
amazing experiences.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I so hope so.
Yes. Well, let's keep positive thoughts. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And Jessica, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so awesome.
Yay, of course. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this